This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. You know what time it is? It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, cover everything sport, international and local. We bring you the best here on the show, and today's guest is no different. Sophia Delavari, I hope I pronounced that properly, is in the studio today. She's a coach who educates her audience about calorie deficits, transformations in and outside the gym, and removing perfectionism from training and nutrition. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know why? Because we often talk about in the industry being perfect or your idea of perfect. She helps people work on all these factors, and especially something we like to talk about on the show, mindset and what health really is. She's here to spill her secrets to success and what she's working on, which, let me tell you, it's coming out really, really soon. On the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Sure is that time. And boy, what a good vibe we have in the studio today on Pulse 95 Radio in the heart of Sharjah. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in wherever you're tuned in around the world, whether it's 95 FM, pulse95radio.com, our app Sharjah Broadcasting Authority, or if you're chilling at home watching us live on YouTube. What a treat we have in store for you today. A fantastic coach to add to this wonderful show. It's Sophia Delavari. What's going on?
Hello, how are you?
How
Thanks
you
for
doing?
having me in
Oh,
today.
my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm a big fan, and I'm so happy that you're here. There's a lot of things we can talk about. I don't know how we're going to fit this all in one show.
I know, I kind of feel like there's always so much to talk about when it comes to health and fitness.
Yeah.
And I could talk for Ireland. As
This is that accent. It's that accent that's giving it away. You do some amazing things, Sophia, and I've been that fly on the wall that's witnessed a lot of your growth over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And you've told me about it as well. But one of the things that you talk about and you speak about is calorie deficits, right?
Yeah.
Firstly, let's tell the audience what is a calorie deficit?
Okay, so even the word calorie deficit is always thrown around on a daily basis, I think, when it comes to nutrition. And I don't think a lot of people actually understand exactly what it is. And I think some people are a little bit humiliated when they don't realise or understand actually what it is.
Yeah.
But on a daily basis, like, each individual requires a certain amount of energy in order to function properly. And when you want to lose weight, you need to make sure that you're in a calorie deficit. So that is working below that energy. So the intake of your food, you need to work below that in order to lose weight. And there is no other diet that is superior to a calorie deficit. So it's really important that we should understand what calorie deficit is. So I like to kind of imagine it a bit like your bank balance as well. It's like your budget that you have to spend each day, right? You have a certain amount of money to spend per day. So imagine that a bit like your food. You have a certain amount of food that you can spend per day. Now, if you go over that budget, it means that you have to live like a poor person the next day in order to recover that bank balance again. And you know, say if you are to adhere to a calorie deficit over a long period of time as well, do it over a week span, you know, not over just 1 day or 2 days. You know, say if you go off your diet, you know, you can recover that. It's fine. It's a bit like your bank balance again.
Yeah,
It's like, you know, you overspend. You might buy the Louis Vuitton handbag, and then you're like, hang on a second. I'm going to have to live like a poor person for the rest of the week in order to recover this.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like your diet as well. So being in a calorie deficit, it's like, how do we actually figure out, you know, what calorie deficit is? How many calories should we consume on a daily basis? And people don't understand that, but we are living in a world now that you can go on your phone, you can Google a calorie counter, you type in literally your height, your weight, your gender, and then you get a number. And this number, the only way for you to figure out what you can eat within a day at the very beginning comes down to actually keeping a food diary. And you can do this with like trackers online, like MyFitnessPal, which is like free, you know. And I know it might seem a little bit obsessive as well to some people that, you know, counting your calories or counting what you're eating might seem a little bit obsessive. It might seem like it's a little bit of a too forward step to go, you know, oh, it seems like a lot of effort. And it's like, if you were trying to save for a mortgage or save for a house, you would mind your money. You take that a closer look at what your outgoings are. So it's like, why can't we not do this with our nutrition? You know, it's really important to know what we're putting inside our bodies and actually take a closer look, especially with like nowadays we've so much opportunity to eat such luxurious foods and processed foods that we don't take a real look and see what actually are we putting inside ourselves.
Correct.
And then we're left wondering why maybe we were feeling a bit tired, lazy, we don't have like the energy to go to the gym or feel focused, you know.
But also the energy. I love the fact you've thrown in energy in there, because a lot of people straight away go to calories, and I know, you know, a calorie deficit is something that we have to be aware of, but that also depends on how much energy you're using up as well, correct?
Yeah and no, because I think, you know, people now are starting to use Fitbits and they're using like, you know, say a calorie burn from a fitness class that they've done, and they're like, wow, I've burned this many calories, and then they think that they can eat these calories back. And I'm like, no, don't do this, because that's never accurate, really. You know, you should always kind of look at your workouts, your calorie burn as like an additional,
Correct.
It should complement what you're inputting inside your body, more or less, because none of that is really accurate. And some weeks you are going to end up maybe missing the gym or missing that calorie burn that you've had, and you've conditioned yourself to learn how to eat in accordance to these massive calorie burns that you have. And it's like, then it doesn't kind of give you that leeway then for those days that maybe you don't want to hit the gym.
So like understanding the whole picture is important rather than just relying on a device that's going to tell you how many calories you burn.
I think, you know, like everyone, I would say like your calorie burn is important. Your daily activity, daily activity is so important, right? So there's a few things that we should consider here as, you know, if you want to lose weight, right? You should figure out what your BMR is, right? That's your basal metabolic rate. This is the amount of calories that you utilize throughout the day without you even moving, right? You cannot change your BMR. You cannot change that. After that, then you have your thermic effect on food, right? So this is the rate of how you burn your calories when you're breaking down food, right? And sometimes you might hear personal trainers going protein, nutritionists saying protein, and then they're saying that for a reason, right? Because you do burn a lot more calories in trying to digest protein, and it makes you feel fuller for longer, so you feel satiated for longer, and that makes up of 10% of your overall calorie burn as well throughout the day. Now that's 10%, that's huge, right? Because in parallel with that, your exercise, like your gym workout for an hour, makes up with 10% as well. So it's like, okay, this is something that we shouldn't really overlook either, you know, when it comes to our diet. And then another 10% is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And this is like even me, clicking, moving around my seat, you know, my facial expressions, you know, everything that you do outside the gym. Like, you should put that at the focus when it comes to nutrition and your daily activity. This is way more important than your gym workout. And this is when the real transformation happens with most people, is that they don't stay sedentary for their whole day and wait around for that 1 hour in the gym. They actually just end up being someone who's super active and then goes to the gym kind of occasionally throughout the week. That's the idea that people should approach when it comes to health and fitness.
It's really kind of developing the narrative of just not relying on that 1 hour of training and focusing on it as a lifestyle change. Yeah, amazing. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to keep this conversation going. I'm enjoying it already. The flow of it is on point. I'll be right back after this break. See you in a bit.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international and local. If you have the luxury of being on the Instagram Live, behind the scenes, she's laughing. You get to see the real, you know, the banter behind the scenes. That we have almost too much fun here on the Halftime Show, and this guest is no different. Sophia, she's still laughing. Sophia, let's dive into some of the things we were talking about earlier. We spoke about calorie deficits. What are they? Are they beneficial? Energy. What people normally have a conception of it, and how it should be kind of holding you accountable. I want to talk about perfectionism. it's one of those things in the industry that sometimes can be overwhelming, sometimes can be underwhelming, sometimes people are scared to try and hit their goals because of it. What is it about perfectionism that is a pro and a con when it comes down to trying to reach your goals?
Well, do you know what? To be honest, if any of you guys are listening right now, I went through my own body transformation and I lost 23 kilos of pure fat at the time because I actually didn't train at all. And I adopted the idea of this fitness influencer at the time. I remember her name was Amanda Feeney. I don't know, do you know her? Yeah? I remember thinking like, God, I want to look like this girl. And
Can I ask you why you wanted to look like her?
because she looked perfect in my eyes. You know, this is the girl that looked perfect. And I feel like when I grew up in an era that it was like Kate Moss, right? Size 0 and skinny girls at the time as well was seen as the perfect idea of what a body should look like.
Yeah.
And do you know what's really funny is like I was actually only thinking of this the other day, that if you think of like Greek gods, right? They're all shredded.
Yeah.
They all look great.
Ripped.
Right? So no wonder we have this idea of what perfectionism is.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
And now, because we're living in a world where social media influencers are left to their own devices of using the beautiful use of Facetune and modifying certain images. Now,
What is Facetune?
Right, Facetune is a Photoshop kind of app for Instagram.
Clearly, you can see from my face, I don't use. I have an idea of what the hell it is. That's why I'm asking. By the way, Lily's giving you a big shout out as well here. She says, "Yalla, Sophie, love you, go girl." What about me, Lily, man? You just forgot me. Anyway, go on. Yeah. So, what is Facetune?
So Facetune is obviously it's like Photoshop,
Right.
modern day Photoshop.
And is that used a lot in social media?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you know, like now, because we can see a rise now in like say cosmetics, people modifying their bodies, right?
Right.
I think it's a way of doing it with technology.
Yeah.
Modifying your body on technology. Now, I think it's really unfortunate when we are adopt an idea of what perfection looks like, right? And I think when we kind of try look perfect on the outside, we forget about the inside.
Correct. 100%.
And it's actually the inside that really matters, and that's what's going to really stick around for when those days when you're not really feeling very motivated, if you haven't worked on yourself and actually taken a deeper look. And before, I used to adopt the idea of Amanda Feeney, the fitness influencer, the Kate Moss, these kind of skinny models at the time, in order for me to feel motivated enough to go to the gym or to eat healthy. And that was never really enough. It was never really enough for those days that I didn't feel motivated. These kind of role models, you could say, which like they weren't doing anything but, I suppose, exposing their bodies on social media at the time. It was never really enough. So it was like, hang on a second, why do I want to go to the gym? Why do I want to eat healthy? What's the benefits? What's the purpose with
What
this?
is your why?
Yeah, and that was the most important thing for me, that it was like to remove the perfectionist idea of what a body should look like and what's the perfect inner kind of work that I can do on myself.
I like that.
And it was having the idea of actually, do you know what? I want to go to the gym because I want to feel confident within myself. Not to look like these other women. And I always think like, you know, the idea of comparing yourself to these other people is the theft of joy. They say that's the theft of joy. And it's like when you have a specific goal and it's your goals driven solely on aesthetics, it doesn't last very long.
Correct. And transformations don't just happen in the gym. You've kind of worked on things holistically and overall from mind, body and soul. What is it that you would now go back and tell less experienced Sophia to do?
To just stop caring as much about your visual appearance and to like focus more on your performance. Focus on your mind more than anything else, because that's the root cause, and then your body will follow. And it's like, what are we telling ourselves on a daily basis? Like, I was trying to adopt this new body that I wanted, but yet I wasn't adopting the role of the mindset of that, how that person would have actually thought. You know, I was going with the old mindset, the old Sophia, that I was telling myself I was fat. I was telling myself I didn't look good. I was telling myself I lacked self-confidence. But then trying to adopt this new role didn't work like that. My body wasn't listening to me. So then I always think like, when there's a certain process that we go through, right? We have thoughts, right? Thoughts go into feelings, feelings go into actions, and then actions go into responses.
Yeah.
And if we're thinking that, you know, we're worthless, we're feeling a little bit fat, you know, how do we act on that?
Yeah.
And it's really important for us to flip the mindset then to be able to adopt these newer habits that are going to obviously pull us forward to our future goals. And I think some of us don't like do the inner work because we're so distracted. We're kind of in this like low space when we're looking for the quickest diet, the quickest like fitness routine that we can do to get 7 minutes abs. You know, we're looking for all these things that we forget to actually kind of think about ourselves and like why, what's the purpose, what's the why behind why we're doing these things.
When you want to physically get fit, you go to the gym. When you want to mentally get fit, where do you go?
So, do you know what? I went for a run this morning and I was just thinking, moving your body and being alone with your body, like, that's where you really go. Like, because that's where, when you are with your own thoughts, that's the most important thing. And sometimes it takes action, like movement, you know, walking, getting yourself out for a walk, a run, to really have that stillness with yourself and really think things through.
Walks are underrated, huh?
They're so underrated, right? And do you know what's crazy was the other day when I went for a run, right? I used to hate running, like absolutely hate it. But then I was like, I always had that runner's high afterwards, and I fell in love with the idea of the aftermath of it. And then I was like, right, I need to figure out why do I feel like this? Like, what's the science behind this, so I can persuade myself on the days that I don't feel very motivated to go. And it actually turns out there is science behind it. So there's a part of our brain called the amygdala, and that's at the forefront of our brain. And that is the reason why we feel we might wake up stressed. We might have fear, anxiety, right? And if we wake up first thing in the morning time and we try to distract the amygdala, we don't have that kind of same stress, the morning stress that we have, the fear, the anxiety anymore. When we get out for a run, we distract that amygdala. We see new visionary images, we hear new sounds, and it distracts that part of our brain. That when we come back home, we have an induced feeling of serotonin levels, and this makes us feel really good. After we work out, you have a boost of serotonin, and that's actual science behind it. So every morning now when I wake up, I'm like, if I don't want to go for that 5k run, I'm like, hold on a second, you're going to boost your serotonin levels, you're going to quieten down that part of your brain.
I like that.
Sometimes you need to know the facts. Like,
yeah, I like that, and I like the fact that you had that conversation with yourself. We're gonna take a quick break. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I am. Mr. Wood's saying very interesting, and he's asked you a question, another question actually, which I'm gonna ask you straight after the break. We're gonna play some Starboy Soko featuring WizKid, and we'll be right back.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
What is that time? And what a good time to be on the Halftime Show. Sophia Delavari is on the show today. We're having a lot of fun behind the scenes on the Instagram live at Omar Duri, talking all sorts of stuff. You guys are in for a treat. Shout out to my boy Ian as well, who's here. We got a couple of people actually. Masood, obviously, Shayma, Florin, Meditate with Anjan is here as well. Lily, who was on the show, Rajvi, Murad, Paul, Rashid, Reem, Saleh. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. A question that was asked just before we were heading into the break, actually, Sophia, was how do you define fitness? Can you give me a sentence on that? I'm just going to put you on the spot.
Ooh, do you know what? I kind of feel like I haven't got the one sentence.
That's a
for
segment.
This.
That's a segment, yeah.
Because I think like defining fitness is like it doesn't have to happen inside a gym, and I feel like a lot of the time fitness is always like, oh, I have to wait until I get the perfect gym membership, or you know, go and do the perfect workout, and it's like, hang on a second, you know, you can be active outside the gym. So I think sometimes fitness can just put people away from actually doing anything or being active or looking after their nutrition, you know.
It's not a bad one-liner, that one. You say, I really can't answer in one line, but actually you can't define it in a gym. It's just answer in one line. Answer this in one line. This is like a fire round. Demon foods. Talk to me about demon foods very quickly, because I've got a lot I want to ask you.
Bread is bae. I'm like bread. Do you know what? I think demon food as good and bad is so detrimental to anyone's relationship with food. And I feel like a lot of people deem food as good and bad. There's no such thing as good and bad. There's better quality foods. That's what I would define as like, you know, demon foods often seen, it would be like bread, right? Carbohydrates, anything to do with carbs.
Rice.
Yeah, rice, bread. It's nothing, there's nothing like wrong with bread, carbs. Once you're within your calorie deficit, right? Or your calorie bracket for your specific goal.
Yeah.
And you keep your protein high in order to account for, say, your workouts, your recovery and everything, then there's no such thing as bad food, like or like demon foods. And I always say 80% of wholesome foods and 20% of what you like, because if you restrict too much, you end up rebelling anyway.
Yeah. Key word in there that you just threw in there, relationship with food.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Love that.
Yes.
You can cap that one. That's a good one. Something else. Root cause of everything is the mind. Then the body follows. Elaborate, please.
Yes. So what you tell your body is crucial for how you take action, right? And I always imagine this, right? Say, for instance, we all have an ego. We all have like a little person on our shoulder that speaks to us on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And if our narrative is telling us negative things all the time, then no wonder we're responding in a negative response, right? And I think sometimes if we can identify with that negative self-talk that we have and adopt a new positive one, if we can kind of define the two and bridge the gap in between A and B, then we can become so powerful when it comes to like getting after our goals and like, you know, stopping yourself from talking to yourself like you're not worth anything.
I like that. Masoud asked you a question. We've got about 20 seconds. We're going to put you on the spot. How do you reset?
Oh.
Great, Masoud. Great, Masoud. Great one. We put her on the spot. You know what? We're going to give her a bit of time. We're just going to go into the Asr prayer right now. But that was a great question, Masoud. Love that. There's that one. And there was another one he was saying, is this the rapid fire round? Because sometimes I put my guests under the fire round. It's like that. We're throwing it at her and she's actually dealing with it really, really well. But she's a coach anyway, so we know that. We'll take a quick break because the Asr prayer is about to kick in. But as soon as we get back, we'll take all of your questions and we'll throw them at Sophia as we are doing now.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
So that is that kind of time. And it's almost full time on the Halftime Show. I'm gutted, man. This was fun. We had 3 segments in already, and we got one more segment to go. So it's your chance to ask these questions that you want to our fantastic guest here, Sophia, who's been killing it on the Halftime Show all throughout. And of course, if you're tuning on the Instagram Live, you'll be getting the extra content that we do as we do it on the Halftime Show. Right, Sophia, so there's a couple of things we chucked at you. Just before the break, our very own Masoud, who's tuned in from India, asked you a question. He said, Sophia, how do you reset?
Do you know what? I think sometimes resetting is actually a poor thing to do, though, to completely reset all your habits, right?
Okay.
Because when you try to change too many things at the one time, your whole life is in a whole 360, and it's very hard to adhere to like new habits then after that. So I always think like, don't reset, just watch what you're currently doing, do a self-audit. What's your current habits that you're doing on a daily basis? You know, when it comes to like eating habits, your fitness habits, your daily activity, and how can we tidy these things up, right? So just do like a self-audit on yourself, and that's when your reset really begins, you know?
Nice.
And then you can turn the volume up, because it's like start at 60% and then give yourself a chance to make some changes, because when you reset, you're going on 100%.
Yeah.
And when you go at 100%, you're not giving yourself flexibility to go anywhere. You're just setting yourself up for failure. So I think that's really important.
So are you more of a fan of resetting one thing at a time rather than trying to reset everything and just overwhelm yourself?
I think like pull things back a little bit. Yeah. You know, I think this often happens when it comes to the first of every year or the first of every month. We have the idea of, okay, we're going to change everything. And it's like, okay, you do this every month and it doesn't work. So let's try something new now.
Yeah. And how do you coach the mind? That's something that you do a lot in terms of your talks. You speak to obviously a lot of clients, you do workshops. How do you coach people's minds?
I often like get a client to write down what their identity is. What do they Like, what can they explain about themselves right now? What do they visually look like? How do they feel?
Yeah.
And create that identity for yourself, right? And then if they look at the page, generally, I would say 9 times out of 10, these people would say 80% of those comments would be negative, right? So it's like, okay, let's switch things up. Let's create a new avatar, a new identity, and write that down on paper. How does that person look? How do they feel? How do they smell? Everything. Emotionally charge that new identity that you want to become.
Nice.
And when you really feel and visualize what that feels like for you, then that becomes a little bit more of like a motivation for you. When you're lacking motivation, then when you can visualize what that person looks like in the future, it's harder for you to give up on yourself.
I like that. And do you normally see like a common pattern with the different types of clients that you see when they're writing things down? Is there something that you see most often, and has anything surprised you when anyone's written something down about the mind?
Do you know what? I often see people, every woman comes into me and they're like, I want to get rid of my bingo wings, I want to get rid of my belly fat, and it's often all these things. But, you know, sometimes I ask them, like, what do you think is holding you back from achieving those goals?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, food, training. I'm like, get really specific. Like, get so clear with like your daily habits, your daily routines, because like 80% of your current state that you're in now stems from your nutritional habits.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realise that. They think it's their workout habits, and it's actually 80% nutrition. So it's like, okay, you know, what's your triggering behaviours around food? What's your like habits that you have around food? Are you eating when you're sad, when you're happy? So how can we disrupt these patterns?
Really good. Shay Matt here is asking you a question. How have you overcome your fears? That's a good question.
I lean into them.
Okay.
And then I get comfortable in them.
Give me more on that. How do you lean into them?
Okay, so like for instance, public speaking, doing this right now is very unnatural for me, and it's like, it actually is, I swear. There was a time where, like, you know, I would be so frightened to do these things, and I was so even sometimes when I try a new gym out for the first time, new classes, I get this anxiety before I even go, and it's because it's something new. But it's like you need to lean into that fear in order to overcome it. You need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And when you can do that, then you're given space to kind of level up, and you can like level up then your degree of like discomfort. And that's how you really overcome your fears, is just keep leveling up, sitting with that discomfort, sit with the friction. Anything that you want to change, you need to challenge yourself and invite those challenges in, because it will humble you over some time, and then you've space then to up level all the time.
Absolutely. I think you've answered the question here when he was asking, how do you deal with uncertainty, especially when everything makes you feel like giving up? Well, that she said level up. That's brilliant. Another question here. Who's your inspiration?
Do you know what? It used to be my mom. My mom used to be my inspiration. And now it's kind of my fear is, in a weird way, my fear is my inspiration, because I want to keep overcoming that, because then it's like exciting things are happening. You know, when I keep doing that, when I keep up leveling, exciting things are coming to me now, because it's like I'm leaning into the fear. How important is it to have fear? Super important. If you want to do anything that is a little bit different, exciting, you need to lean into fear. It's like nobody who's successful in life hasn't leaned into their fear. They haven't, like, everything that they've done in their life, they've failed at one point at doing. Like, I've failed at so many diets. I've failed at giving out the wrong advice so many times. And the only way I've learned from those is through failure. And I think the thing is, people think that we see on social media and everything, you know, that everything is perfect, right? And it's like, we can't have this perfection without pain either. You know, we need two opposites. You know, it's like North Pole, South Pole. We need the polar opposites here. So it's important to realise that, like, if you want pleasure, you're going to have to experience pain in order to be able to understand what's the difference in between it.
Is there a technique to embracing fear?
I've noticed something that really helps me lately is like actually breathing. Like, you know,
Nice.
just breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. And actually, funny enough, the one thing that really helped me was yoga, to really center myself and actually become a bit more connected with myself. Because I feel like we're so distracted with like everything, our phones, technology nowadays, that we don't actually take an inner look within ourselves. And that's where the fear is coming from, you know, it's within ourselves. So it's like, when we're constantly looking for something else to kind of numb those fears, like food, a lot of the time we use like food as a numbing agent to overcome our fears, but it doesn't help anything. You know, so it's like, how can we sit with that friction and feel okay with it?
There is a connection between emotion and food, right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
So I was someone who suffered from emotional eating before. When I had like my 20 kilos on, I was like, always, if I felt sad, I'd always eat. And I put this back to when we were born, right? When a child cries, we nurture it with food generally. You know, if a baby's screaming, it's conditioned to, oh, let's feed the baby, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, no wonder our natural response when we're kind of feeling a bit emotional, we look for food, because it gives us that instant pleasure. It gives us that safety net that some of us don't realize that that's our automatic response until we're sat in like a stage of, oh, we feel overweight or we don't feel confident in our bodies. We're like, uh-oh, what's happened here? And a lot of the time it's that emotional response, and we're using food to numb those feelings. And it's like, okay, how can we change and disrupt those patterns? So when you're feeling sad, okay, like maybe pick up the phone to a friend, a family member, bring yourself out for a walk, you know, these little things. Don't numb it with food.
Spot on. What a way to end the segment. That is full time on the halftime show. Thank you very much, Sophia, for being amazing. The listeners also were saying some really, really good things here on the Instagram Live, saying how great that was. Did you enjoy your experience?
Yeah, I had a great time. It's been great.
Yeah, I paid her. Fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was wicked. And remember, you can always catch all the episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, 3 to 4 UAE time. And if you do miss the show, don't worry. We got podcasts, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud. Or if you prefer a visual, want to see Sophia, you can head over to the YouTube channel, check out Pulse 95 Radio, and she is there as a guest on this show. Before I let you go, Sophia, where can we follow you?
Sophia Delavari _DXB coach on Instagram. I'm heavily on Instagram, and then I have all the links to my website and everything in my bio there.
Amazing. And something's coming up.
No, I got my podcast.
Yeah.
The Detached podcast. So it's all about detaching yourself away from your limitations. And I've invited a lot of guests like yourself on it.
What a wicked show. You've also got something coming up as well.
Don't put the pressure on.
I'm doing it. This is part of the accountability. This is part of detaching ourselves from everything. Well done on the process that you're going through right now. I'm really excited to see the end product whenever you're ready to release it.
Okay.
But you are writing a book.
Yeah, I am indeed. So do you know what? I feel like it's leaning into your fear again, because I have dyslexia, and I feel like, you know, dyslexic people can't write books. Apparently so. Well, so I'm on for a challenge.
Good.
And it's demystifying fat loss and the external factors that impact us as a whole, that we should really kind of focus in on it in order for us to be who we want to be.
Amazing. What a way to wrap up the show. And we need to get a hell for that one. That was great. And that, folks, was another one. And should we just be doing things the way we do it on the halftime show? Thank you very much, Sophia. You've been fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys, I will see you back here, same time, same place on Monday. Don't go anywhere, and I'll see you very, very soon. Stay blessed, people.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories. Pulse.